Kembali lagi bersama saya Fauzan Lutsa. Kita melakukan interview dengan Bapak Duta Besar Afrika Selatan, Mr. Lekgoro, untuk membahas beberapa hal seperti ekonomi dan perdagangan, investasi, pendidikan, dan juga tema yang sedang hype saat ini tentang BRICS, geopolitik, dan bagaimana posisi Afrika Selatan di tengah benua Afrika yang saat ini menghadapi berbagai persoalan. So, Mr. Ambassador, we will move to heavy issue. It's like international politics and BRICS. So, I'd like to ask this first. In the global chess game, how do you view the roles of South Africa and Indonesia? Are there strategic moves you believe could mutually benefit both nations?
Yes, South Africa and Indonesia can benefit themselves by realizing and acting as people from the South who are less privileged than more privileged nations, and coming together to tackle their issues of development and support one another in that path. And we're doing so already in terms of trade relations and in terms of multilateral forums that we participate in. South Africa and Indonesia are conscious of the fact that the countries of the South must unite in terms of, positions in multilateral institutions.
So now, South Africa is currently in the world spotlight. The Fifth BRICS Summit held in Johannesburg was seen as a sign of the world shifting towards multipolarity. Could you explain the significance of BRICS for the world and especially for the African continent?
Yes, BRICS for South Africa, for Africa, for the South. It means we can act and engage with a market of over $27 trillion. That is an opportunity on its own. And the BRICS to us symbolizes one of the areas where, countries of the South can come together to have joint actions in terms of their plight and how they take their development forward. So BRICS it's a real opportunity. And we're delighted to see more countries joining BRICS. And if the closing statements of the South African president are something to go by, it appears the door is still open for more to join. And a country like Indonesia, with its size of the economy and being part of the South, I'm sure would be welcome to BRICS if they wish to join.
In the political view, it will be to replace unipolar like with United States and the ally. What do you think? With BRICS position, it will be replace United States.
Yeah, you hear many pundits speak about that, and other thought leaders speak about replacing. in my view, replacing is not the issue. The issue is creating an alternative platform where you can pursue what you are pursuing in other platforms. And what you are not able to do better in platform A, you can try and do it better in platform B. That's how I look at BRICS, more than it being an effort to replace what is there, but rather to create an alternative for those who might want to do other trade and, other related matters differently.
So, will South Africa support Indonesia if our president wants a membership application for joining BRICS?
Yeah, as I have already mentioned, that, Indonesia being part of the South, Indonesia with its big population, Indonesia with its big economic size, would be, a country that, in my opinion, should be welcome in BRICS if they decide to join.
How do you see a relation between South Africa and ASEAN? What do you see about that relation?
Well, we see ASEAN as part of South Africa deepening its relationship with Southeast Asia and its member countries. South Africa already has diplomatic missions, embassies in 80% of the ASEAN member countries and conducts political and trade relations with those countries. And our wish is to grow that relationship, and ASEAN is one such vehicle because it is evident to everybody that the role and stature of ASEAN is growing in Asia, and it is opportune for South Africa to seize the moment, heighten relationships with ASEAN as a structure and member countries of ASEAN.
Now, Africa is predicted to face food difficulties due to the impact of the Ukraine conflict. How does South Africa perceive this situation?
Yeah, Africa has faced the food crisis before the Ukraine-Russia issue. And well, it may be argued that, this conflict may increase that. But the South Africa's posture towards the Ukraine-Russia issue is informed by our own experience. It's only the belligerents who can come together and discuss their problem. We believe that, there's a choice. Give diplomacy a chance or engage in perpetual war. So our our stand as South Africa is that, Russia and Ukraine must negotiate. Because if you don't negotiate and you bring other players into your conflict. And at the end, you, the two who are at the cold face of that door, you are suffering the real casualties. And that's a lesson that South Africa, I think, taught everybody at the time of our negotiations. South Africans said definitely that on the negotiation table, it will be the two opponents, not any other person, because the problem is between the two of us. And that's a lesson we continue to tell those who are in conflict, that they must come to the table, negotiate the problem, seek a solution. Where such diplomatic efforts are not implemented, the alternative is war.
So South Africa will not send more weapons to Ukraine or Russia for solve their problem.
No, South Africa's position is that it must be a negotiated settlement. We're not like Europe and US who are hell-bent on sending arms to keep the fires burning. We think we must put the fires down.
So the world is currently an uncertain state and global security is vulnerable. As a key nation in Africa, how does South Africa contribute to regional stability?
We engage in peace efforts in Africa under the AU, in the world under the United Nations. To the extent that we are able and can afford, we join peace efforts. And in Africa, I may confidently say that we are one of the leading countries in terms of the peace efforts. Wherever there are conflict situations. Our deputy president has just recently returned from South Sudan in an effort to, find a solution.
So, did South Africa agree with ECOWAS that will make an action in some Africa's country?
Well, South Africa's position will always be informed by AU. Above all, problems should be discussed and solutions found. We are not encouraging that armies must always overthrow elected governments. And that's a AU position, that such should not happen. So, how we feel about the current flare-ups of coups in the Sahel will be informed by the AU positions.
So, in G20, AU will become a new member.
What will become a member?
Africa Union become a member in G20, a new member. What do you think? It will be make difference for Africa, or what do you see about that?
Well, I mean, it's important that Africa's position, thinking should be heard in important international platforms. When there are important international platforms where we are not heard, it is not to our advantage. So it will always be to the advantage of Africa and its countries to be heard in those important forums. And G20 It's one of them undoubtedly, where previously Africa did not have a voice. Now Africa has a voice in that important gathering. And we believe it's an advantage for Africa.
Okay. We will ask a general question. So, if you could arrange a personal meeting between a national hero from Indonesia and one from South Africa, who would you choose and why? How do you envision collaboration between them?
I'll choose the highest awarded academic in South Africa and the highest awarded academic in Indonesia. The most awarded sports star in South Africa and the sports star in Indonesia. I think it is at that level that, relations between the two countries can make a difference. In the academia, that is in education. As I said earlier, we need one another for technological advances. We need one another in research and development. And, it is through education that we will advance to higher income status. And sports is because, sports unites people. Sports makes people happy. So, if we have influencers in that arena coming together and being presented to both countries, I think I would choose that.
What kind of sport are very famous in your country?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Yes, my sport in South Africa is soccer.
Soccer.
We have also two other sports that are famous. There were many codes, by the way. Rugby would be.
Oh, rugby. Okay.
Not only famous, but we the best. We are amongst the best in the world. And with this World Cup happening, we are looking forward to, coming out victorious. We already beat Scotland. Yeah, and then cricket also.
Oh, cricket. Yes.
We one of the best in cricket also. And there are other many codes of sports, netball, all that. But these three, my guess is that they would be your most looked after sports codes in South Africa: soccer, rugby, and cricket.
Okay. That's good. So, you present your letter of credence to President Joko Widodo on February 20th, 2030, this year. What are your plans to enhance grassroots level relations in both countries?
Yeah, my brief from South Africa as an ambassador here is to enhance political relations, enhance economic relations, and enhance people-to-people's relations. So my work will pivot around those three issues. And as I said earlier, tourism is one of the areas that we're looking at on a continuous basis, how to grow the numbers of Indonesians going to South Africa and grow the numbers of South Africans coming here. Because that is how, in the shortest possible way, you're able to build relations at grassroots level. And on the education sector also, as the, we relate on education exchanges, in conferences. That's how you build grassroots relations. And if our small business people finally find each other in the area of business, that will contribute towards people finding each other at the grassroots level.
So, tell me, two places in South Africa that great for tourists from Indonesia if we'll visit to your country.
I must tell you what?
Two places. Yes, it's
where
good
they can
for.
go. Oh, for visitors.
Yes, for
from
visitors.
Here. Oh, why I say two? Because there are more than two. But
you can say 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for Indonesians, for cultural purposes, it would be beautiful if they would see Makassar. Yes, which is in Cape Town. Once you land in Cape Town, it's not far to see. And if they see the Bo-Kaap that I talked about earlier, that would be, of significance and of cultural connection to Indonesians. Beyond that, there is the beautiful cold sea to experience in the Cape. The Cape Town is rated as number 1 tourist city in the world. There are magnificent landscapes to see there. Beautiful nightlife for the young ones. So yeah, we have 3 big cities in South Africa. It's Johannesburg, next to Pretoria, the capital city. It's Cape Town on the coast, and it's Durban on the coast. And of course, we have big animal parks that I know tourists love to see. As long as they don't touch those beasts, they remain beasts.
Yes. The last question, Mr. Ambassador. Among the places you have visited in Indonesia, where do you find a reminder of your home country?
Well, I've just arrived, as you said. I'm just here 6 months. So I've really not explored much of Indonesia. But hearing from colleagues and counterparts in other embassies, I already have a list, my bucket list of where I should go. So far, I've only been in Bali and Bandung. But those were work-related visits. I enjoyed the seas of Bali and the resorts there. And I saw the biggest statue in Bali. I don't remember its name, but
Garuda Wisnu Kencana.
That's it. Yes.
That's huge,
I hope to explore more and more.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. I think it's very deep interview. So our readers and our people will know more about South Africa as a political, gender question, or culture and people, and many more. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. And please feel free at all times to visit our office or to ask for this and that for your publication.
Yes.
We will be more than willing to provide.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have Cendramata.